A socialist sweep in New York sending shockwaves through the Democrat Party all across the country. All three far-left candidates, backed by New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, won their, bringing them one step closer to Congress. Those victories from last night are putting the Democrat establishment on hot notice. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Cheers, chants, all in support of the Democrat Socialists of America. Now, you know I don't call them that. They're just socialists. All of that cheering erupted for Claire Valdez, one of the candidates who claimed victory.
How are we feeling tonight?
Democrat Socialists of America, DSA, as they were chanting. Former member Brad Lander forced out incumbent establishment-backed Congressman Dan Goldman. And Daria Liza Avila Chevalier did the same thing, unseating a veteran congressman and the Hispanic caucus chairman. Chevalier won despite a slew of past problematic posts that she's made. She pushed for the abolishment of ICE, Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. And she questioned Israel's right to exist. That sounds like a terrorist. She attacked President Trump and used a cuss word to address former Vice President Kamala Harris. But Chevalier does not want to answer for any of that. She stormed out of an interview when pressed about those posts. It is in Spanish, but her actions say it all in every language.
Que siempre va a luchar por ustedes, que nunca va a aguantar ninguna indignidad contra ustedes. Cuídense.
Bueno, gracias ahí, escucharon.
Here's the cover of today's New York Post. The headline, The Hateful Slate. All three candidates supporting policies like ending the military aid to Israel. Again, abolishing ICE, housing and Medicare for all, for free, all of it. Well, who pays? They're going to hike the taxes on people who are wealthy. And wealthy isn't just in the millions. It starts really at the upper middle class and some middle class when you look at the numbers that they want to tax. Alexis McAdams has the latest from New York City. Alexa.
Hi, Harris. Yeah, yesterday when we talked, we weren't sure exactly what was going to happen. You wake up this morning in what the DSA calls the commie corridor, and it's a different New York, and it's going to be a little bit different in Washington, D.C., where they say you're going to hear people yelling, "Free Palestine," which is what we heard from these DSA candidates. They're going to take their far-left agenda now to the nation's capital. It's something the mayor says is ready to be done, and it's something they stand behind. Watch.
And we have to use every tool in the toolbox to make sure that we abolish ICE and keep our immigrant neighbors safe.
Solidarity forever. Abolish ICE. Free Palestine. Organize your union. And join DSA.
Mamdani went 3 for 3. So Zoran Mamdani, as everyone knows by now, is the mayor here in New York City. He's being called a kingmaker with this race. He endorsed fellow Democratic Socialist Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, Claire Valdez, and then progressive Brad Lander, who all won. They want to abolish ICE, defund the police, and cut ties with Israel. One of the night's biggest upsets was Chevalier knocking out 5-term Congressman Adriano Espaillat. She is an anti-Israel activist. That's what this comes down to. And that played a huge role in another upset in New York. Dan Goldman lost to Brad Lander, and he lost to him quickly, quicker than some people expected. Some voters say support for Israel was the dividing line. I caught up with Lander and asked him about this split inside the Democratic Party. What happened to the moderate Democrat?
Look, I don't think it's so much progressives versus moderates. I think it's fighters versus folders.
Well, we'll see what that means. Mamdani says the DSA is winning big. They're going to move the Democratic Party, Harris, in a new direction, and he is celebrating these wins.
It is because you poured your hearts into this, because you poured your hopes into this, that we are showing there is a new path for politics in our city and in our country.
So President Trump posted on Truth Social just moments ago that Mamdani helped elect 3 solid communists, saying, hey, congrats, Mr. Mayor. I went 16-0 last night, helping to elect wonderful American patriots. Back out here live. This is the question I think people are thinking, including establishment Democrats and leaders of the Democratic Party, Harris, like Hakeem Jeffries, who's waking up this morning thinking, what happened in New York? Can the Mamdani playbook work in November? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, imagine what's happening inside the, deeper echelons of the Democrat Party. All those people who've held office forever, seat after seat after seat after seat, and they're waking up to a new normal this morning, and some of them thought that they could just ride it out into the sunset. We'll see about that. Alexis, thank you. Right. Countless headlines now echoing the massive effect on the political landscape. Here's a tiny sample. Mamdani emerges as kingmaker. Primary forecasts future for Democrats. And socialist earthquake leaves Democrats reeling. House Speaker Mike Johnson from moments ago describing socialists. Look at this.
Democrats have candidates winning primaries and rising through the ranks. Here's a few of them. Vang in California, one of the Democrats, she won't say the Pledge of Allegiance. Hamaway in New Jersey, Democrat candidate, socialist candidate, has ties to Al-Qaeda and other terrorists. Chevalier won last night in New York over Hakeem's counter endorsement. She says she wants to abolish the border. She doesn't want a border for the country. Mendoza in Arizona wants to decriminalize trans prostitution. Apparently that's the thing. James in Iowa wants to apologize for being white. Garriott in Iowa performed a Satanist wedding. And Bennett in New Jersey stopped going to church because Trump voters were there. This is just a sampling. And these kind of people have been popping up. You've been hearing me say for weeks, there are many Mamdanis popping up all around the country. It is a dangerous thing. This is not a joke. We're in a fight right now to save the republic. And every American needs to take this seriously.
Power panel now. Cassie Smedile, GOP strategist. Meghan Hayes, former Biden White House director of message planning. Look, Cassie, this is not a shock if you've been watching some of these races. But some of the things that are being said now, they're not Democrats. And will the Democrat Party, do you think, wake up and say, no, they're socialists, let's do 2 separate parties?
Good morning to you both. It's a good question because former DNC chair Jamie Harrison last night put out a tweet saying, if you're going to wave the DSA flag and then expect to use the Democrat Party's resources, essentially, we don't want you. So where will they go? But the problem they have with this civil war is that the establishment is losing, and the establishment doesn't have a clear leader. They clearly don't think Hakeem Jeffries is the guy. And so in the absence of that, Mamdani and his DSA efforts are happy to step in, and they are organized and they are energized. And as you heard Speaker Johnson just lay out, it's not just in these deep navy blue urban cities. They've got candidates across the country that are winning primaries. And for Republicans, that's the message into November. You think there's disarray in Washington now. Wait until this new Democrat Party gets to Washington. Don't vote for them if you want anything to get done.
I want everyone to watch what House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the most powerful Democrat in the House, this is what he said right before New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani was elected last November. Watch.
Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country as it relates to our need to both take back control of the House.
Okay, that was a lot of words, but his first word was no, Mamdani is not the future of the party. Meghan, how did he get it so wrong?
So I don't actually think he's wrong. I think a couple things are at play here. This is an anti-incumbency election, I think, for both Democrats and Republicans. But these 3 people who won last night in New York are not helping win back the majority for the House Democrats. That's taking place in New York 17, in Utah 1, where the people actually elected more moderate Democrats and people who are actual Democrats who speak for the majority of the Democratic Party. So, I don't think he's necessarily wrong. I think that this was a surprise to some people that they were able to take hold and win. But all politics are local, and this is what people in New York City wanted, but this is not what the majority of people across the country want.
Chevalier, I mean, come on. Some of these people are going to Capitol Hill. And this is potentially, at least they think they can, this is sidelining anything that you think you stand for on the left, because they are, and I've had so many establishment Democrats say it, they're just louder than you guys are. The Faulkner Focus went out on the streets of New York, spoke directly with Americans, because we have people from all over the country here right now with a whole lot of sporting events and everything. So it's a great opportunity to talk with Americans about the surge of socialism right here. Watch.
Countries and leaders that have embraced socialism has had such a tragic end to it, and the people are the ones that end up suffering the most.
Social Security is a socialist program. Medicare is a socialist program. SNAP benefits. So it really depends on how you define socialism. I think people tried to exploit it as to what it's being described as today.
I don't know. Desperation, lack of knowledge. I don't think they know the impact it could have. I don't know, ignorance.
Anything goes as long as it's not a Republican, is the way people feel, I think. How are they going to do all the stuff that was promised for you people when they voted for him? How is he going to do all that?
Isn't that what we fought in Vietnam? Communism, which is kind of like the brother of the cousin or other of communism and socialism.
She reminds us, on Wednesdays, we wear pink. She's right about that, Cassie.
Yeah, it's interesting when you hear the perspective from the broader country. Again, the Democrats have, their voters really haven't participated in a proper primary election at the presidential level in really more than a decade. And so they are feeling left out. They are feeling that they haven't been paid attention to. And in the absence of that, they are saying, we're looking for something different. And Mandami and the DSA and Bernie Sanders are all too happy to step in and try and capture some enthusiasm. And again, this isn't just relegated to New York and the deep blue cities. Speaker Johnson outlined any number of candidates who are running on these platforms, waving their flags. And because there's not a good option, card-carrying Democrats, I'm afraid, are going to say, well, I'll hold my nose and vote for this person versus anyone who stands with President Trump. That's the only play they have, is anyone but Trump. But I will just say, Dan Goldman, who was the face of the Democrats' impeachment efforts against Donald Trump, just got ousted last night. So even that is too moderate for today's Democrat Party.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And look, what happened to him at that cafe here in New York City was just sick. You know, him getting pushed upon because he supports Israel and Jewish Americans in this country, getting pushed upon, and then finally, you can't come back to the Poetica Cafe. We'll have more on that coming up. But, Meghan, I want to ask you about just this idea that the candidates in that race, and Speaker Johnson listed some of the things, are going for maybe things that we haven't even heard of. What is transgender prostitution, and why do we need to legalize that? And I don't laugh about that, because one of the candidates apologized for being white. I mean, this is supreme division that members of your own party are causing across the country as they run. We don't need to be divided against, by our sexuality or our race. Society does that enough on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm laughing because it's so absurd. But I think a lot of these members or these people, if they win and their generals, are going to have a real wake-up call or should have taken a civics lesson. You become one of 435 people when you are a member of the House, and you will not have the power to do any of these outlandish things that you are running on. And this is where campaigning is much easier than governing. We see that with Donald Trump and some of these economic policies now. They're going to have a wake-up call that they have to play in a group of people. And if they're going to caucus with Democrats, they are going to have to vote for things that are more moderate and more beneficial to the actual Democratic Party.
It's so interesting that you worked President Trump into your response to socialists taking over the Democrats. And I would only say to you is, well, they do have you not talking about as much Donald Trump. Do you want to focus more on maybe defunding them in your party? Because they're using your money to go forth. Real quick answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know why we're supporting DSA candidates. Again, they are not Democrats. They don't stand for things that the Democrats stand for. So I actually am not sure why leadership is not taking more of a stance on how we use our party resources, as Jamie Harrison said last night.
All right, Cassie, Meghan, great to have you. This is a story that will develop. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.